Both Bob Gardner and Darryn Klein have issued statements after the two were involved in an altercation during the Mars Championship race at Farmer City on Friday night. Roll this up over at stockcarreport.com. You can find the link in the description below. We can hop over here to Flow Racing over on X and take a look at exactly what happened during the race. Bob Gardner in that white and pink 4G. Darryn Klein in the red and white number 10. Klein here is going to dive it in. 2, 3, and 4. Huge bomb there. Gardner keeps his line, tries to spin Klein out after getting fenced, makes contact with Dylan Thornton instead, and then comes back around onto the track. You can see right here the yellow lights on the truck go on there, so the caution is out as soon as Gardner comes back on the track. It looks like Dylan Thornton might be going back on the track as well, so almost simultaneously both drivers are trying to go back on the track. Maybe they both were assuming that the caution was coming out anyways, but the caution did come out right when they came out. And you can see right before Thornton gets into turn 3 right there, and he's going to slowly come back up the track here. Expresses his displeasure with Klein. He's now going to cut through the infield here. Chase Klein down as he's coming back around. There he goes. Speeds up there. Chasing him down. Accelerates. Gets to his left front. Looks like he might be trying to potentially cut his left front there. And then gives him another shot in the door and flips him over. If you listen to the audio, the tower is saying, 4G, you're out of here. 4G, you're done for the night. So he was clearly DQ'd for the rest of the night. And I don't think he raced last night with the Mars series. So let's get to the responses here. First off, Gardner shared this Photoshop mugshot of himself, noting that his crime was flipping opponent under caution. He then tagged Tyler Erb and said, "And you thought cussing was bad," obviously referencing Turbo's experiences on the Summer Nationals Hell Tour earlier this year. Klein then shared his thoughts in a post on Facebook as well. He says, "As far as the crap on the track, this is my view. I threw the slider because of the way..." Oops, sorry about that. As far as Klein, this is what he said over on Facebook. "And as far as the crap on the track, this is my view. I threw the slider because of the way the start of the race took place. 4 times he gave me 0 room. 4 separate times. Literally makes me start the race right front on the curb. If he give me no room, why do I respect him and give him all the room? I race him exactly how he's consistently raced me, and I'll continue to try to race that way." As far as Gardner, he shared a lengthy statement on his YouTube channel. First, he said this isn't intended to justify anything I did or persuade someone one way or another. Just for my own good, I wanted to speak for myself. He then apologized to Dylan Thornton, saying, "First of all, I wanted to apologize to Dylan Thornton. He had nothing to do with this, and honestly, probably got the worst of it. So to Dylan and his team, they work just as hard as any of us do. Truly apologize to you guys." Next, Gardner said this: "What I did was uncalled for, was wrong, was out of my character, but I did it, and I'll suffer the consequences for whatever that may be. That wasn't my intention. In the heat of the moment, I wanted to flatten Darren's left rear tire. It looked like he was actually going at his left front tire there. If we watch that replay again, maybe the left rear on the second contact, but it looked like he was hitting him in the middle of the door to me. Hard to tell, but definitely thought he was going after his left front there when they first make contact in turn 4. But anyways, Gardner goes on and says, "So in my mind, he put me out of contention for not only that heat, but for the rest of the night for a possible win. And in my mind, he wasn't going to finish that heat race. I just wanted to flatten his left rear tire so he couldn't finish the heat race. Give him a little bit of payback. Whether anybody thinks that's right or wrong, that was my intention. Obviously, it didn't go that way and went way wrong from that point on. There's tons of factors in why it went wrong. I did make contact with him again. Should have never done that. That's on me, and I'll take responsibility for it." He then addressed Klein's claims of squeezing him on the restart, saying, "In my mind, I didn't do anything wrong, anything that I've not done on every restart I've ever done." He actually shows all of the restarts at the end of his video from his in-car camera, and he seemed to be fine on the restarts. There was one time where it looked like Klein, and I forget who else it was that was kind of behind him, looked like they were trying to jump the start. I think the guy who was behind Gardner was actually reacting to Klein going, and then clearly just misjudged when Gardner was going to react and misjudged that restart. I think that was like the second one that they had. As for the slider itself, Gardner said, "If you haven't been in the seat, you know you have a split second to react. And obviously, I feel like it probably could have went a couple of different ways. It didn't. I had a split second to either think that he was going to give me a lane around the top or turn down. Obviously, hindsight, I made the wrong judgment there." He then claimed that Klein ran over his right front tire on the warm-up laps before the heat race. He did show video of that. It's hard to tell if Klein made contact with the tire. He clearly came down onto Bob Gardner, and it looked like he did indeed make contact with his car. And that was on the warm-up lap, so no clue what was going on there. But Gardner then said this: we had 4 restarts for God knows what reasons. I won every single restart fair and square, came off of 2, went into 3 in the lead all 4 times, and the 10 car didn't even give us a chance to race. First lap, didn't even cross the green flag. He runs in there wide open and runs over our nose, so takes us out of all contention. So yeah, I was heated. As soon as that happened, the accident put Dylan and I into the infield. I would have thought that we would have had a yellow, but I guess because of how we got shoved down into the infield, there wasn't any caution on the racetrack itself. I think the series probably wanted it to stay green. Both Thornton and Gardner obviously went into the infield. They'd already had 4 restarts, and they probably just wanted to get that heat underway and probably finish it so they could move on to the next one. But anyways, Gardner continued saying, so they didn't throw the yellow for whatever reason. I pull out on the track. Yes, going the wrong way. Again, another thing I did wrong. I understand that, but I wasn't driving backwards down the front stretch under live condition like I've heard. I think that's, for the most part, accurate. Obviously, as soon as he came back on the track, they threw the caution, but he almost immediately turned back to go the wrong way on the track as soon as he entered the track, right? So it happened like almost simultaneously there. Anyways, he goes on and says, I have it in my headset. As soon as I turn onto the racetrack to draw a caution, the caution was waived as they were on the backstretch. He then concluded by reiterating that he takes full responsibility and understands what he did was wrong and that he's sorry to Dylan Thornton. He did not apologize to Klein, just said that what he did was wrong. We've got some reactions from some other super late model competitors. Tyler Carpenter posted this saying, lifting is for soft effing degenerates. It's not his responsibility to lift for F-stick who doesn't know how to throw a slider. Always have to leave a lane. You can't just Hail Mary a bomb and expect people to lift every time. That's not their job. So obviously, Tyler Carpenter was not happy with the way that Darryn Klein raced Bob Gardner. Brent Larson also posted this saying, there's a lot of drivers who the 10 car pulled a dirty slider on that enjoyed seeing this. Miles Moose did kind of defend Klein here on this one. He says, if you watch the in-car video, Bob had 3 seconds to lift and never did. Unfortunately, sliders have become normal, whether we like them or not, but using your car like that is uncalled for. And even Bob Gardner acknowledges that. I think that is obviously apparent that what he did was indeed wrong. I think the big question is now is how does the Mars Championship punish Bob Gardner for the way that he acted, for using his car to not only try to cut down Klein's tire, but also flipping him over there in turn 4. We obviously have a number of different precedents that are at least 2 over the last couple of months. One of the biggest was Taylor Farling at Port Royal. He was suspended for the rest of this season and then suspended for the entirety of next season. And then he was also banned from a number of other local tracks for that event. He was banned from BAPS, I think Lincoln, and then there were a couple others that banned him as well. I've already shared my thoughts on that. I thought that was absolute overkill. On the other hand, we have what happened to Michael Page down with the Hunt the Front series and Dirt Car, and they suspended him for 30 days after he retaliated against Corey Hedgecock, drove up under his rear end, and then almost flipped him over at Sonoya a couple of weeks ago. So those are kind of the 2 precedents that we have. We'll see what Mars does. I haven't seen any kind of punishment from them as of yet. Haven't seen anything from Farmer City either. I think obviously the Taylor Farling punishment is just way, way overkill. I do think you need to send a message. I think 30 days is probably a good message to send. I think even if Farmer City wants to suspend Bob Gardner from competing there for the rest of the year, I think that is a solid message to send as well. But I do think you got to try to send messages to these drivers that this type of retaliation is unacceptable. I think maybe they need to communicate that if they want to retaliate, they need to do it outside of the car, and they need to do it with their fists. We know that the car store has actually said that they are actually trying to not ban fighting. They're fine with fighting. They don't want people to be using their cars on the track. So they're actually trying to have that retaliation done outside of the vehicles. And I think there's something to that. I think I've talked about this in the past on other incidents. Like, it needs to be something more like hockey, where the guys know that it's coming and then it's just the drivers, and the drivers duke it out, and they take their licks or they don't, right? Depending on how the fight goes, right? You either take the licks or you're given the licks, right? Or maybe you're both taking the licks, because sometimes that happens too, where it's not just one person doing it, but at least like you have that happening rather than any kind of retaliation with the vehicle. So I'll be interested to see what happens with Mars. Maybe they do a totally different type of punishment. Maybe it's something like a 5-race suspension or something like that. I know we saw what Bubba Wallace got suspended a couple years ago in NASCAR when he retaliated against Kyle Larson. He got a 1-race suspension. So we've seen various different penalties from different sanctioning bodies, different tracks, on how to deal with stuff like this. But it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Gardner recognizes what he did was wrong. He does seem at least somewhat remorseful of it. Obviously, he has not apologized to Darryn Klein for that. He did apologize to Dylan Thornton, probably still upset with Darryn Klein about the way that he raced him there with that slider, but obviously does recognize that what he did with the retaliation, flipping him over, was wrong. Even if he didn't mean to flip him over, if that was not his intent, that still is what happened. So he should be punished for that. It's just, what is that punishment going to be? So I'll be interested to see what happens. And let me know what you guys think the just punishment would be for Bob Gardner here. Let me know in the comments below.